we have a good view of our intake and all the bolts here in the front. There's some more in the back. It's connected to our throttle body, which we left assembled just because that bolt down there. You know, we've done this hundreds of times, and you could be doing it on your own yourself, and you always run into problems. This problem with this stud twisting back there, that's a problem. So you got to work around it. You got to figure out how to get it off, which we probably could have if we forced it, or we could wait till we get the whole thing out of the way, get it over to a bench where we can work at it easier, get a better grip on it, and get it off later. So let's see if we need to take anything else off. Also, a good trick is you can use your old intake. I mean your new intake. Why not look at the new intake, see where all the bolt holes are. There's basically one here and one in the front and the back, front and back, front and back. So we can pretty much, I'm going to try and take this without taking the alternator off. The instructions say you got to take the alternator off. Let's see if we really have to. Those again are 10 millimeter. Most everything on a vehicle is metric. When you're going to take this off, it doesn't really matter what sequence you go to take these bolts off. When you go to put it back on, there's definitely a certain sequence, and you got to follow that to torque it properly. Again, these are plastic. If you torque it wrong, you can break them. So be careful, follow the instructions, and torque them the proper amount. We'll show you that later. And we got all the bolts loose. Now it might be stuck on there, but look around real close, make sure there's no other bolts. If there's not, start wiggling it loose and see if we can get it off of there. You may have to, yeah, actually I can see it's already loose. Lift it right up. And it's off. Now that's the insides of that intake. I'm going to take this and lay it over to the side. There's still a little bit of coolant in there. I'll show you some things on this old one. This is supposed to happen. This is a 2-piece intake manifold. Well, it's actually 3 pieces. This is the inside of the upper, and then this is the lower. And this thing's pretty neat to look at. It lines right up with the base of this, which again, this is air going in here. You can see the air is positioned to shoot directly into the cylinder head. The cylinder head that gets that air also has a fuel injector right next to it, and it's got a spark plug right in the middle of the cylinder. So basic engine, combustion engine, it's got to have fuel, air, and spark. So you can see exactly where all 3 come from. You got your air coming right in, you got your fuel shooting right into the same cylinder, and you got your spark shooting in here with the spark plug. Now, because of this oil leak, in fact, you can see it really good now. Let me pop this off. This is the coolant temperature sensor. If this was my car, even if this isn't my car, just because this sensor is so easy to get to right here, it's probably $15. Don't let yourself have to do this later after everything's back on there. Go ahead and replace that sensor. It's right there. It's simple to get off. It's a coolant temperature sensor. It measures the temperature of the coolant. It's right next to the thermostat. Basically, when this gets to a certain temperature, it's around 200, 210, something like that, it turns the fans on. It also tells you on your gauges what your temperature is. Some cars have more than one. But if this is right here, you got all that stuff off, consider replacing that. It's very, very silly not to get down this far and not replace that. And back here, even though we dumped a bunch of fuel back here, you can see really well now. If you come around here, this oil leak, this oil's been pouring out of here. Again, this is the lower part of the intake. This is a cylinder head, and this is the engine block. And right where those 3 are sealed together, there's a bunch of oil sludge there. That's all just oil that's been leaking for a while. So we're going to knock out 2 problems with this car at once. We're going to get rid of this oil leak. We're going to get rid of that coolant leak up top. Now, if you spin on over to the intake, you can see some cool things with this. Number one, this original one has actually been redesigned. They've made some things to make this fail less. They've reinforced the EGR, which here's a better look at our problem. This is the EGR tube. This is where our problem is right here. This is where all the coolant's leaking. This is the throttle position sensor. I bet you if I pop this thing off, we're going to see a problem here. This is actually what, when your throttle opens, you can watch this, how this works. This is actually just a potentiometer, and it measures where it's at in relation to the throttle, which the throttle is right inside here. It's just like your old car had a choke. You could see the choke. It's a throttle, same kind of thing. As the throttle moves, you can see it moving that sensor. Very simple. It's just a little lever. It controls electronically how much voltage is coming out of there, and it goes into the computer and tells the computer what's going on. Well, this is an electronic device. It's gotten coolant all inside of it. It started to melt, and we suspect this is what is causing her problem of accelerating when she's not accelerating. She's going 15, 20 miles an hour down the road. It's accelerating for her, and most likely it's this part here. So we're going to go ahead and replace that also. A couple other things you can look at on this intake. You can see where there's coolant passages to allow coolant to cool this down. That's how coolant gets in here to leak. And the rest of this is just air passages, and basically it's just a plastic intake manifold to distribute the air into the engine. That's the top side of it. So now, since we couldn't get this throttle body off now, I can get to it a lot better on the bench. We're going to go ahead and get to that on the bench and get this off of here.